The afternoon sun poured harshly through the thin curtains of the small apartment, illuminating every corner with a brightness that felt almost cruel. For 3 days straight, Arav had barely slept, barely eaten, barely kept himself from collapsing onto the floor. His home looked like a battlefield of scattered toys, half-washed dishes, milk bottles, and crumpled work papers. His daughter's tiny pink shoes lay near the door, one upright, one fallen sideways, just like his life. He had promised himself he would hold it together no matter what, but that promise shattered the moment someone knocked on the door. It wasn't the soft knock of a neighbor or the hurried rap of a courier. It was slow, steady, almost hesitant, as if the person on the other side was gathering courage. Arav felt something cold tighten in his chest because he knew life had a strange way of sending storms wrapped in footsteps, and when he opened the door, the sight froze him where he stood. It was Maya, his ex-wife's younger sister, the one who had disappeared from his life the moment his marriage fell apart. Her eyes carried the weight of something he couldn't understand, and before he could even process the shock, she whispered words that punched the air out of his lungs. "Arav, I know what happened, and I'm here because you shouldn't face this alone. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Stories of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more heart-touching stories to you." From the moment Maya stepped inside, the stillness of the home seemed to shift. Arav had always known her as someone who carried warmth effortlessly, someone whose presence softened even the harshest moments. But today, she had arrived with a different kind of softness, the one born out of grief, guilt, and something deeply unresolved. Arav felt exposed, almost ashamed by the state of his home. He tried to gather toys, wipe a table, straighten a cushion, but Maya gently placed her hand on his arm and stopped him. For a moment they stood silently, the only sound being the distant traffic and the occasional chirp of a sparrow perched on the window grill. Arav's daughter, little Noor, lay asleep on the couch, her face blotchy from crying earlier. Maya stared at her with eyes that glistened painfully, and Arav knew she was thinking of her late sister, his ex-wife, Asha. It had only been 4 days since the accident. 4 long, endless, suffocating days, and not once had he allowed himself to feel the full impact of her loss. But Maya, she was looking at Noor with a mixture of heartbreak and tenderness that cut right through him. Arav never expected Maya to come. After the divorce, the entire family blamed him, though he had buried the truth quietly in his chest and allowed their anger. They believed he had been the reason Asha left, the reason she took their broken marriage and vanished into another city. But no one knew the truth, no one except him. And now Maya unexpectedly stood inside the very space he had built from the ruins of that heartbreak. It was overwhelming in a way he had no words for. As she moved around the apartment, settling things without asking, picking up tiny socks, stacking bottles, adjusting Noor's blanket, Arav felt his defenses crumble one by one. He wasn't used to help. He wasn't used to gentle hands fixing what he could not. He wasn't used to someone caring without questioning. The sunlight coming through the window caught in Maya's hair, making her seem like she carried a quiet glow, calm, grounding, and painfully familiar. She looked so much like her sister, yet so different in the ways that mattered. Slowly she began to tell him things he did not expect to hear. She told him that Asha had been seeking help, fighting silent battles no one had seen, carrying guilt she couldn't express, and that in the last message she sent Maya before her accident, she wrote about wanting to come back, wanting to fix things, wanting to be a mother again the way Noor deserved. The words pierced Arav so deeply he felt his breath tremble. For months he had blamed himself for her leaving. For months he replayed the same memories, trying to understand what he could have changed. But now, hearing this, something inside him cracked open, painfully but meaningfully. He sank to the floor before he even realized it. His hands covered his face as everything inside him collapsed. The grief, the confusion, the guilt, the exhaustion, the dam he had tried so desperately to hold finally gave way. And Maya, without hesitation, knelt beside him, placing an arm around his shaking shoulders. He didn't push her away. He didn't pretend to be strong. For the first time in months, someone held the broken pieces of him without judgment. They stayed that way for a long time, the sunlight shifting across the room, shadows slowly crawling, warmth fading and returning as clouds drifted outside. Maya didn't speak. She simply stayed, which meant more than words ever could. Nora eventually woke up, her tiny fingers curled in sleep-lined confusion. When she spotted Maya, she blinked as if she were remembering a distant face. Maya smiled at her, soft, gentle, melting, and opened her arms. Nora hesitated only for a moment before she crawled into them. Arav felt his throat constrict again. Nora had barely let anyone hold her these past days. The fact that she went to Maya felt like a message from the universe, an invisible bridge forming between past wounds and possible healing. As the day stretched on, they prepared a simple lunch together. Maya moved like she knew the place, even though she had never visited before. She knew where to keep things, how to soothe Nora when she cried for her mother, and how to quietly give Arav moments to breathe without making him feel watched. The ordinary tasks, cutting vegetables, washing tiny bowls, folding Nora's clothes, became strangely comforting. Arav couldn't explain why, but watching Maya work with such natural tenderness made him feel something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Afternoon turned to early evening, and sunlight softened into a warm golden tint that filled the small kitchen. That was when Maya finally voiced the thing she had been holding inside since she arrived. She said she didn't want Nora to grow up believing she had no family. She said she didn't want Arav to lose himself trying to carry everything alone. And then, very quietly, she said she felt responsible, not because she had caused anything, but because she had been absent when the people she loved needed her most. She wanted to change that now. Her words landed in Arav's heart like a sudden, quiet shift in weather, gentle, unassuming, but life-altering. He realized she wasn't there out of obligation. She was there because she genuinely cared. The grief she carried was not just for her sister, but also for the years of distance, misunderstandings, and silence that had kept their families apart. She wanted to rebuild something, not replace, not erase, just rebuild. As time passed, the connection between them grew naturally, like a slow sunrise warming a cold horizon. It wasn't romantic, not yet. It wasn't supposed to be. It was the kind of connection built on mutual grief, shared responsibility, emotional honesty, and the fragile hope for healing. Every moment felt grounded, real, and painfully human. Nora, with her innocent giggles and sudden bursts of laughter, seemed to stitch their hearts together without even trying. By late afternoon, the home that once felt suffocating now felt a little less heavy, a little more alive. The clutter was still there, the pain still raw, but the air carried something new, something almost peaceful. As the golden light faded outside, Maya prepared to leave. But before stepping out, she turned to Arav and said something that made his entire world shift. "I don't know how to make any of this easier, but I know I want to try. And if you'll let me, I want to be part of Nora's life. I want to be part of the healing. I want to help you both in whatever way I can." Arav didn't know what the future held, but he knew this moment mattered. She wasn't promising perfection. She wasn't replacing anyone. She was offering presence. And that, he realized, was something he had desperately needed without knowing. By the time Maya walked out into the fading daylight, carrying a promise that felt fragile yet powerful, Arav felt something inside him finally loosen. Grief was still there, yes, but now there was a thread of hope too, a thread woven by someone he never expected to return. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, and subscribe to Stories of Kindness. Your engagement helps more emotional stories reach people who need warmth and healing. Special request. Comment family is more than blood if you believe healing can come from the most unexpected places. And as Arav closed the door that evening, the house no longer felt empty. It felt like the beginning of something new, something fragile, tender, and full of quiet possibilities. He knew the road ahead would be long, but for the first time since the tragedy, he believed he wouldn't have to walk it alone. Noor babbled softly from the couch, reaching her tiny arms toward him, and as he lifted her into his embrace, sunlight flickering warmly across her face, he realized that sometimes life doesn't bring back what you lose, but it brings someone who helps you carry the weight of that loss. And sometimes that changes everything.